This is a company I've looked at a while back, and it follows the same theme that we've had so far today, in that you have a really top-level management team. And what you're looking for in this market is to invest with the smart people. And as Darin is going to tell you right now, you're really not going to do any better than Pure Gold and where they're positioned in this market.
Thank you, Brian. Just like to say it's a pleasure to stand up here and introduce you to the story of Pure Gold Mining. Forward-looking statement, I will be making some statements here that are forward-looking. So 2 years ago, we set out to make an acquisition. We were already 2 years into a declining market, declining interest in gold, and thought that would be a good time to go out there and look for quality assets around the world that we could build a company around. And so there are a few things we were looking for, and they're highlighted on this slide. We're looking for grade. We acquired a project in the Red Lake district of Ontario. It is the highest grade gold belt in Canada. Jurisdiction, well, I said it, Red Lake, Ontario. Red Lake is a mining-friendly jurisdiction. It's had an active mining history with over 90 years of mining, including 28 million ounces of past gold production. And infrastructure, well, infrastructure here is about as good as it can get. You can work year-round. There's active mines in the region. In fact, we have a paved highway bisecting our property and established infrastructure on site. But there's been a bit of a renaissance in Red Lake over the last 20 years, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. It's a changing camp, it's an evolving camp, and there's been a number of really exciting discoveries, and that's the premise that we're building upon with Pure Gold. And so this is a Gantt chart that kind of puts that history into perspective. If you look back in the 1930s, as a bit of an interesting bit of trivia, the Red Lake airspace was the most active airspace in North America. And the reason for that was that all the float planes were coming in and they were building up the mines. There ended up being 20 plus mines in the region, and it was really gold that was driving that activity. And you fast forward to 1995, I was a young geologist working underground in Red Lake, working at the Campbell mine for Placer Dome. And that mine was still the cash machine for Placer. When it looked like the quarter was going to be bad, we'd go into one of these rich high-grade stopes, and it would boost the company, a very large multi-project company. It would boost it just by going into one of these zones. But at the same time, it felt like a camp in decline. When you looked around, there was really just the Campbell mine operating across the fence. We had the Dickinson mine, part of the same ore body, but separate, operated by Rob McEwen in the early stages of Goldcorp. And they had launched strike action. Those 20 plus mines had all shut down, and so it felt like a very mature district. Now you fast forward today, over the last 3 years, have been over $1 billion of capital put into Red Lake. So the question, what is driving that? Well, really it was the discovery and development of the high-grade zone in the mid-90s that drove that. It turned Dickinson mine from a 50,000 ounce per year producer into a 600,000 ounce plus per year producer. And it developed Goldcorp into the company it is today. You look at the Bruce Channel discovery, that followed that discovery, and it was really by applying the same geology. So there was a fundamental change in understanding of the controls in high grade that drove these discoveries. Bruce Channel was acquired by Goldcorp in 2008 for $1.5 billion, no resource. There's a barometer for the differences between the low point of the market and the high point of the market. We bought Madsen, a past producing mine, 2.5 million ounces of production, a resource of 1.2 million ounces at 10 grams per ton, a mill that's on care and maintenance, permits to operate the mill and the tailings facility. We bought that for $12 million in cash and stock. They acquired Bruce Channel for $1.5 billion, and there was no resource at the time. So we've walked in here with a premise. We have all of this fantastic infrastructure. We've got a resource in place, but we think that Madsen has fantastic exploration potential. Over 50 square kilometers of patented ground. There really hasn't been subjected to a systematic generative approach to exploration. We look at this new understanding that's developed through the discovery of the high-grade zone, the Bruce Channel deposit, Rubicon's Phoenix mine, and we think that that same application has the potential to make a major discovery on the Madsen Gold project. We've assembled a fantastic team around it, a team with deep Red Lake experience, technical expertise, and capital markets expertise, and we're funded to go out and explore the property. So we got a shot here that shows you the site. You can see in the foreground is the mill. It's a 500 ton per day mill. It's not the original Madsen mill. In fact, it was moved there in the late 90s from the Donor Lake operation. Behind that is the head frame. It was an underground mine, 24 levels of underground production. You can see the town of Madsen behind that. And I'll just point out, we've got Russet Lake there, we just completed a winter drill program on the far shores of Russet Lake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a cross section through the mill, the head frame, and across Russet Lake. And that section gives you a picture of kind of what our model here is. We've got the Madsen shaft shown there, the Austin Tooth as it's labeled. That's where all the past mine production came from. And this was a fantastic mine, produced 2.5 million ounces down to the 1,200 meter level, average grade of 10 grams per ton. And that mineralization does persist to depth. We know this because we can see it drilled below the bottom of the mine. And in fact, there's a drill hole that intersects the Austin 750 meters below the mine that returned 14 grams per ton. It plunges away from the head frame, and that's one of the reasons the mine shut down. But late in the mine life, in 1969, they were looking to extend that shaft. They drilled a hole and intersected the 8 zone, which you see there in that pink unit, which is an ultramafic rock body. And this is really key to our model because it's the same environment and has the same look and feel as the other high-grade discoveries in the camp. So it is analogous to a Red Lake high-grade discovery. And so we look at that intersection and that the resources shown there and the discovery and ask ourselves the question, if it's at depth in that environment, why couldn't it exist closer to surface? So that's what we've done. We're looking closer to surface. You bring that back 1.6 kilometers up the long axis, and you're into an area there that's targeted the alpha target. This is the Russet South area. We look at there, we see some historic drilling in the area that was high grade. We did a lot of mapping the ground last year, and what we found, and this is a complex slide, but that's exactly what you want. You want to see complex geology. It has all the features and characteristics of a Red Lake high-grade system. So this is part of our conceptual targeting model. We're building it up, and we stepped in, we drilled in several areas last year, and we hit high grade at surface in 2 of them. First drilling in this area, the alpha target, you can see it on the map here. We returned 11 meters of 8.2 grams in hole 28, including 5 meters at 15 grams. This is 75 meters below surface. So here's a project that started mining in 1936, and we're still drilling high-grade gold right at surface within 1.5 kilometers of the mill and tailings facility. Stepped out into the beta target, 200 meters to the south, first hole in there, 2.9 meters at 39 grams per ton. This was intersected 13 meters downhole, so it's effectively right at surface. There's 200 meters of separation between alpha and beta. Now, it's tough to put in perspective what this means, but in Red Lake, these systems are often quite small in plan view and they have very deep roots. So if we talk about the high-grade zone at the Red Lake mine, the high-grade zone fits into a window that's 100 meters by 100 meters. You look at the scale bar in there, we've got a mineralized system that we're drilling out here that's, has more than 500 meters of extent. There's a lot of potential to hide some high-grade zones in here. Just a chart showing drilling from the initial drilling. We've drilled 27 holes in our winter drill program, and we've released results thus far for the first 19 holes. You can see the depths there, quite shallow, and grades that are typical of the Red Lake camp. And as a geologist, I have to show a shot of core, but this is quite typical again. Quartz carbonate vein systems with visible gold. So we've got a cross section here, and one of the keys in Red Lake is to try and establish continuity of gold mineralization. We intersected mineralization in the alpha target and the beta target at surface, and with our drilling, we're able to establish a model that connects the mineralization. We're starting to build upon continuity. And what we're discovering is there's 2 primary controls to mineralization that we see at Russet South. They're the same controls we see at the Madsen Mine, the same controls we see elsewhere on the property, and very similar controls to the rest of the camp. The Fork Zone is another target area that we're working on advancing. This also lies about 1.5 kilometers from the mill. It's an area that was actually discovered in 2003 and has a number of high-grade hits into it. We walked in there, did a lot of the basic building blocks of building up a geological model, went back and relogged core, did some geochemical work, did some structural modeling, and eventually built a model that explained the mineralization. We went in and tested it last year, and we had success in hitting a high-grade structure with 6 of 7 holes. We went back this year to extend it to the south, and we've had success in extending that structure to about 350 meters. It is a high-grade structure that comes to surface. No current resource on it, and again, it's very close to our existing infrastructure. So, in summary, we went out a couple years ago in a distressed market and looked to make an acquisition. We wanted to address jurisdiction, grade, infrastructure, and we think we've done so in acquiring the Madsen Gold Project in Red Lake, Ontario. We've wrapped a fantastic team around it. We have, with the mill, the permitted mill and tailings facility and the existing resource, it's a great foundation to build the company on. But we're out there looking to make a new discovery, which we think will really fundamentally drive the value of the company forward. Just a quick shot of our capital structure and shareholder base there, and I thank you very much for your attention.